MDM4U 3.0 Statistics of Two Variables Introduction. What we're going to learn is how to create a scatter plot using Microsoft Excel, as well as how to graph functions using Microsoft Excel. So if we put our data into an Excel spreadsheet, what we can do is click and drag over an area that we wish to graph. So we click on Insert tab and then go to a scatter plot. That's right, it's 2D line, scatter plot. So we're going to click on our scatter plot and change a couple of the chart features, such as the title. Typically a graph is Y versus X. Since we haven't given specific titles, we'll just call this Y versus X. Next, we need to label our X and Y axes. We can click on the axes and add chart element, axes titles, primary, horizontal, X, and the primary vertical is Y. All right, so this is our scatter plot. We can see that this is a negative linear relationship, but if we click on the points in the scatter plot and right click, then we can add a trend line. So this is the line of best fit. Now we've typically drawn this by hand, but we can get an even more specific or the best possible line of best fit, the one that is closest to each of the points, by selecting display equation on the chart. So in this chapter, we're going to learn how to calculate this line of best fit by hand and how that is accomplished. And we're also going to be able to interpret this r squared value, which we call the coefficient of determination. And if we take the square root, that is the correlation coefficient, which we'll also learn the meaning of. Okay, so that being said, graphing a function, let's pick something. Okay, we have x, and we're not able to write functions into the equation. This is computer language, so we're going to use this right here, which is a text box, and say y is equal to 2x squared plus 1. Notice I use that caret to create the exponent, but I'll just put that in this place here. And what we can do is select a range of values. So I'll do -5, -4, -3, and use the fill feature by selecting an area which has a pattern and dragging it down. I'll go to +5. Just to make this easier on the eyes, we will create a border. I appreciate the thick box border, good. That being said, what we're going to do is take this right here and write this as an equation. This is equals. Remember, when we start off an equation with equals, this is going to do a calculation in this cell. We want it to be 2 times, and remember multiplication is the asterisk, times x. Well, in this case, x is coming from this position. So I can click on that cell or call it A3 due to its column and row, A3 squared. So that's to the exponent 2. Notice I use the caret symbol, which is shift 6 plus 1. Hit enter. Now this displays the value calculated by this right here, but if I go to the bottom right corner of this box and drag this down, I can get the same instructions for all of these cells. So click and drag. But there's one difference. By defining this cell in this position, A3 is 1 unit to the left. So the equivalent formula here with a relative function call has A10, which is 1 to the left. So that being said, what we can do is insert, and we can look at a scatter plot here. So there's format chart area. If you right click on the graph, that'll be helpful for adjusting a lot of the features of the graph. But the main point here is that we can see There we are. We can see our curve. Now, if we want to get the curve of best fit, we can right click and it's going to say add trend line, but this is clearly not a linear relationship. This is quadratic with its symmetrical shape. So, in order to find quadratic relationships, this is a polynomial of order 2. So this is it right here, and we can display the equation and the r squared value. Now notice the coefficient of determination is 1, meaning the strongest fit possible to this line, and this is using exponential notation, but it's still a quadratic relation. So that being said, this is one way to graph using Microsoft Excel. I admit it's not as good as Desmos, which is specifically geared towards mathematical functions, so we'll investigate that in a later video.